Buongiorno friends, I hope you're all having an amazing day. Today I'm extra excited to talk to you because I just hopped off Instagram live with a lot of you and it got me feeling so refreshed and so energized to create this video for you all about all of the jobs I've ever had. So if you're not following me along on Instagram, it's at Zoe Ariel and I'm looking forward to connecting with you over there. So without further ado, let's get started. So before we get into this video, I want to give a big thank you to today's sponsor, which is Lingoda. I've worked with Lingoda before because I feel like it is a truly beneficial platform to so many of you audience members out there. If you didn't know, Lingoda is a language learning platform which offers classes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All learning materials are included and you can get started at any language level and any start date you prefer. You also get a 7-day money-back guarantee. So if you're unhappy in the first week of courses, you can get a full refund, and that is incredible. You know, then you're getting your value. So today I'm gonna be telling you guys about business English with Lingoda, which I feel is beneficial and aligns well with this video, because if you can speak eloquently, you can get yourself hired. You can get yourself jobs. You can present yourself in a business manner, and it is a very powerful tool to have. The Business English program consists of 90 classes at €11 per group class. That is an amazing value considering you'll learn the skills for office culture, business correspondence, negotiation skills, presentation skills, phone communication, and more. You can book classes around your schedule. That means any day and any time, whatever works best for you. It's perfect for intermediate learners because it's going to get you to that next level you need to unlock your next promotion or your next career venture. This improves your chances of getting a job, getting a visa, getting a promotion, or just to feel more comfortable at work, presenting yourself in meetings. It's just an overall amazing skill to have to better yourself in your career and just in life in general. I can't express to you guys enough how much speaking, public speaking, be able to present yourself in an eloquent way has helped me in my career, so I know it will do this exact same for you guys. So take advantage of Lingoda. As mentioned, even for this business English program, you can try out the program for 7 days and get a full refund if you aren't happy. So I'll have all the information for that linked down below so you guys can get started and get speaking eloquent so you can convert yourself into the career of your dreams. So, speaking of career of your dreams, I currently feel like I have my dream job, which means that it has given me the capabilities to live and work remotely in Rome, Italy, but things weren't always this way. It's been a career path like this and like this. And I want to give a big shout out to my friend Louise, who's been one of my biggest inspirations here on the platform as well, because she did this video and I thought it was so interesting to learn about her career path. So I'll be sure to leave Louise's video down below to give you guys some more ideas as well as how digital nomads became digital nomads and how it wasn't always this way, because I think so many of you out there feel like that type of lifestyle can be out of reach or unattainable, but really anyone can do it. I'm going to share my career path with you guys, and I'm sure some jobs are going to be shocking, and I'm curious to know which jobs you are the most shocked by or surprised by, so be sure to write me down below and let me know. So I have the list here on my phone if you see me just reading off of it. So my first job ever was as a babysitter. So I took the babysitting course at my local Parks and Recreation, which was in British Columbia, Canada, and once I was certified as an eligible babysitter, I was allowed to childmind, and I mostly babysat. Well, I think I only really babysat for my friends' parents' kids, but it was a really fun experience and I'm really happy that I did it. And of course, if you guys are familiar with my journey, we'll get later on, I became an au pair in my later adult years. So, I mean, it's funny how things come all the way around. Another job I had as like a side job while I was too young to legally work in Canada was I used to mow the lawn on my dad's properties. So my dad would pay me about like $10 a lawn, and this was probably like around $10 an hour. I was a hustler from a young age, anything for $1, really, anything for $1. My first real job, like the one where I had an interview and got hired on, was at a grocery store. I was a courtesy clerk. So if you guys don't know what that is, let me tell you. I was out there in 30 degrees pushing buggies from the parking lot into the grocery store. I was bagging groceries. I literally was a bagger and a buggy pusher for a couple of years, and then in that same grocery store I then leveled up and moved up to a cashier, which I really enjoyed cashiering when I was a cashier because I would hustle all summer, especially like summer before university, I worked a lot. Like I worked full-time, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's full-time in Canada. It really helped me to save money for moving away from my hometown. And I found that when I had a positive attitude when I was going to this job, I would see positive results and time would go by faster. And I think that's when I first started to access the power of positive thinking and starting your day with a positive mindset. Because of course, when you're a student and all of your friends, this is your last summer together before you're all going off everywhere else, and you want to go to the lake with them, you want to go hiking with them, you want to do all these things, but to be working full-time as a cashier, yeah, sometimes you go into work and be like, oh man, I have 8 hours ahead of me and all my friends are out at the lake. Major FOMO. But the more and more that I practice going in with a positive attitude, smiling at every single person who went through my cash, even if they were in a bad mood, I got to meet and have really quality conversations with people that were positive and uplifted my days. Be positive, go to work with a positive attitude because it will make the biggest difference, and that's where I learned this. Next, while I was also hustling to go to university, the same summer that I was working as a cashier, I also picked up some part-time work at a restaurant called Boston Pizza. And at Boston Pizza, I was a hostess. I don't think I actually served because I wasn't old enough at this point. In Canada, you have to be 19 to serve alcohol, and at this point I was 17. So I was a hostess at Boston Pizza, and it was okay. To be honest, I found that time didn't pass as fast as it did when I was a cashier, just putting through that produce and punching in the numbers, but it was still a good lead-in to my next chapter, and this is my university chapter. My first year of university, I worked at Booster Juice, which is basically like a smoothie and juice bar, and I would make smoothies and juices all day long. To be honest with you guys, I remember it being very fun at the beginning, getting to try all these like juices and smoothies, but then after a while I realized I'm ready to move on, and ready to move on to make more money, and this is when I started dabbling in the serving world, which I personally believe is the best job for any university student to have because you can work the minimal amount of time and make the maximum amount of money.
Still make cash money.
Because you're making tips as well. Depending on which country you're in, but in Canada, US, you can make a lot of tips as a server if you have that smile and that positive attitude, which I learned from being a cashier and a courtesy clerk at the grocery store. So the first restaurant I worked at was one called Earl's, and it's kind of like casual fine dining. And I worked there for about 6 months, I think, and then I moved on to another casual fine dining restaurant called Cactus Club Cafe. Here is where I met a lot of my amazing friends that I had during my university years, and it was really great because I felt like I was always working with friends. I wasn't working with strangers or people who I wasn't necessarily fans of. I felt like Cactus Club does a very good job at hiring like-minded people, people who want to work hard and who are nice and smart and fun. So I had a really great few years of university working for Cactus Club Cafe. I graduated university in British Columbia, and it was time for me to move on to Ontario, and I moved to the city of Toronto. So I moved to Toronto to do my postgraduate degree, which didn't start until September. So I was in need of a summer job. I moved in June, so I had a couple months to get settled in with the city before I was gonna start studying. So I needed to make some cash, especially in Toronto because it's an expensive city to live in, and you know, there's just always fun and entertaining things going on. I wanted to take a break from serving, so I started to go on websites like Indeed and search for jobs. And here's where the fun story comes in. So I found it what I thought was an office job, and it sounded like it was in sales, maybe like cold calling, but I'm like, to be in an air-conditioned office, this sounds great. So I put on my I remember what I wore to this interview. I had this cute J. Crew shirt with like a little like bow here. It was red and it was striped, and I had these like business style black capris, and I wore these brand new Michael Kors flats, and I just went in there being like, this is it. I've already got an office job before I even start my post-grad. I'm going for it. And then I show up and I'm in a room with like a bunch of other people, and all of a sudden this presentation starts to happen, and it's all about this company that's selling energy. I'm like, okay, like, are we all in this job interview together? Like, I don't understand. So then they get us all to like go into this van. It sounds so sketch. So we all like go into this big van that seats like 9 people. I think there was like 2 vans, and they give us a clipboard and a button-up shirt, drop us off, and they're like, we're going out on site for the day. And I'm like, excuse me, what? It's Toronto, it's summer, it's like 30 degrees plus humidity, like feeling like 40. And we started going door to door selling thermostats. And the way that we were doing this was knocking on the door and asking people if we could come inside and see their thermostats. So for this first day, I was obviously shadowing someone, so I'm like asking a million questions. I'm so confused. I thought I was going to an air-conditioned office, job interview, not going on site or whatsoever. But anyways, I somehow got myself on this ride of accepting a job that paid only commission. So I was only paid for the amount of thermostats that I got installed in someone else's house. So I was a straight hustler this summer. Like, I had this job for about 4 weeks max, and I think I worked over 8 hours a day in the heat. I don't think I made more than $2,000. And I mean, I hustled. When I say I hustled, I'm pretty sure I actually worked like 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, and it was harsh conditions. But it was such a great learning experience because I got tuned into this world of marketing, about how to build rapport with people, how to present yourself. And in Change, like, this is when having an eloquent business level of English can really help you. So I was lucky enough to go through university learning English to a business extent, and so I carried that forward with me, and I think that's why I was able to get thermostats installed. I quickly got tired out at this job and realized, you know what, it's probably best if I'm in the city of Toronto to go get another serving job so I can make a lot of money in the minimal amount of time, because else I don't know how I'm gonna survive in the city. So I got myself a job at Milestones Bar and Grill at Yonge and Dundas Square in Toronto. So if you're not familiar with Toronto, Yonge and Dundas Square is like the mini Times Square of Toronto. And it is very busy, and the Milestones restaurant is very busy. It has a beautiful patio that overlooks the square and some of the city buildings, so it's really nice. But what I learned from this job is that the laws for working overtime are much different than those in British Columbia. In British Columbia, you can't work over 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. That was the rule anyways while I was there. So I found myself working from 11 a.m. to 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning sometimes. Incredible. It was just so busy. I remember waking up after some of those shifts and just feeling like I was hit by a bus because I was on my feet all day. We didn't get proper breaks. It was straight hustle mode. But of course, I made a lot of money because I was serving, and it served the purpose that it was to serve. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to make those types of sacrifices in your life to get to where you want to be. So I worked at Milestones for, I don't know, I guess close to a year, because while I was in my postgraduate program in Toronto, part of the program offered the opportunity to take on an internship. So I took on an internship for 4 months, I believe it was. And then after that, I actually was one of few who got hired on with the company that they interned for. So I was so grateful for this opportunity, because even though it would mean taking a serious pay cut, only working part-time for the rest of the semester, I ditched my job at Milestones because just mentally, I couldn't do it anymore, and I wanted to really make a good impression on this corporate job. So there are sacrifices you're gonna have to make. Sometimes you're making a sacrifice in money, and sometimes you're making a sacrifice in your mental state, whether this be serving and feeling so frustrated and overwhelmed all the time and sleep deprived, to taking a serious pay cut to work part-time for a company while you're finishing up your postgraduate degree. So the company I worked for then was amazing, and this was my first foot in the door of a corporate job. So I started off doing social media marketing part-time. Then I became a marketing coordinator, marketing manager position for about another year with that company when I was working full-time. I really enjoyed it. This company was amazing, and I got to work with people like Martha Stewart, Malcolm Gladwell, Charles Duhigg. I was very, very much inspired at this point about self-improvement and self-improvement books, and that's when I started to become kind of a self-improvement junkie with Audible, like reading, listening to books. I was all in. I was so inspired by the people I was meeting. It was really great because I got to help curate their content to a larger audience. And I found it very inspirational. But as what happens with some jobs, you just get to a point where you kind of outgrow them. And I felt like I was no longer learning anymore, and there wasn't really space for a promotion for me in this job. So I started to look for something a little bit different. And at this time, I was also working on the side, a little bit of freelance work for one of my friends' companies. They decided to offer me a full-time position, so I totally jumped on that. I was really excited to work with my friend and to learn more about marketing on the SEO side of things. So this is what this job offered me. It was more about Google AdWords and SEO as a whole, so I was excited to take on that opportunity, and so I did. And I worked for this company for about 6 months, I think, and then unfortunately, if you guys have read Beauty and the Breakdown, you know the story, that my position got dissolved, so I was left to find a new job in the city of Toronto. So that's something I had to deal with at a young age, this losing your job or getting laid off when you have expensive bills in an expensive city. It was a very stressful time for me. Of course, my book is always linked down below if you're interested in the year before I moved to Roma. It's got all the details. And so I was very upset, but I started to desire something more creative, and at this point, I had already started my YouTube channel, so I was realizing I like video, I like editing, I like that side of marketing. I'm really missing my creative aspects. So I started to apply to a lot of marketing agencies, and within a matter of a couple weeks, I was hired on with a marketing agency, a boutique style agency, and I really enjoyed it for the time being. I got to be creative, I got to share my ideas, but of course, if you've read my book, you know I'm not going to go into details, but the corporate world just wasn't for me anymore, and I realized that I needed to make a move in my life. That move was to Rome, Italy. That was what I desired and what I dreamed about for many years, so I decided to make the leap. And when I made the leap, I actually obtained some freelance clients, but it wasn't enough for me to live off of in a city like Rome, especially Canadian dollar versus euro. So I applied to be an au pair, which meant that I got room and board with a family and also got paid a little bit of money on top of that. I became an au pair. I moved to Italy not knowing anyone, not knowing the family, the home that I was moving into. I just met them over Skype once. So of course this is a very nerve-wracking scenario, but it was one of the best decisions I've ever made, and I still talk to my au pair family here. Living with an Italian family, I got to understand how life works a lot more quickly than I think some expats would moving here alone. And of course, you're probably wondering, corporate marketing to au pair, like, what are you doing? I know a lot of people question what I was doing, but I knew in my heart that this was the one thing I had to do, and that's why I decided to do it. I was an au pair from September until July, and in that period of time, when the children were at school, I was hustling. I was hustling writing books, I was hustling on YouTube, I was working for some freelance clients I had and obtaining new ones. I really worked really hard. I really capitalized on the free time that I had while I was being an au pair, and it has proved to be so rewarding to me. As you guys know, I was able to move back to Italy this year on my own with a study visa, study Italian here, but also provide for myself by my freelance clients. And this wouldn't have been possible. Growing my YouTube channel wouldn't have been possible. Writing my books wouldn't have been possible if I didn't take this leap of faith, and perhaps having to take a step backwards career-wise, I took 10 leaps forward for self-improvement. I can't tell you enough, business English was very, very valuable at this point because I was taking on new clients. I had to converse well. I had to write really good emails. I had to freelance write for blogs, different articles, and I realized like how valuable my entire path prior to this had been for me in all different areas. Now we find myself where I am now. If you're familiar with my YouTube, you know that I'm a digital nomad. You know that I published 3 books, working on more at the moment, and this is my dream career. This was my dream career, and I'm still learning, still expanding, and I can just say that I'm grateful for the journey. I'm grateful for the sacrifices I had to make. I'm grateful for sweating in 40 degrees outside, knocking on doors, trying to sell thermostats. No matter where you are in your career right now, know that if you are unhappy, it's just a blip in the radar, and sometimes we need to be faced with these unpleasant circumstances to inspire us to move to the next level, to follow our hearts if that's the case, to hustle. Really, like sometimes it is about hustle, and proving yourself and grabbing the bull by the horns and just getting it done. So I can honestly sit here now and say that I'm grateful for every job that I ever had, even if it was pushing buggies, mowing my dad's lawns. It all leads you somewhere. So any advice I can give for you, those of you who are out there in the corporate world today, one thing I love to do was to go onto LinkedIn and search for someone who I wanted their position. Maybe it is the director of the Toronto Blue Jays, and I would go see what their career path looked like. Of course, people don't share everything on LinkedIn, but you can generally see that sometimes people do hop from job to job in a year window, a year and a half window. It's all about knowing when you have maxed out your learning capacity. Like I said, in my first corporate job, I got to that point where I felt like I learned everything I needed to learn here, and it was time for me to move on. When you feel that click in you, when you have that bell going off, make the change, because each job will grant you so many new learning experiences. You'll be faced with new people to interact with, new people to learn how to build relationships with, and it's just all part of the journey, so embrace it. Alright, so big thank you again to Lingoda for sponsoring this video, and if you guys are interested in upping your business English game, the links will be down below, and I hope that you check it out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Ciao!